Let's talk about exciting RPG opportunities in a game near you. Let's talk about how to make your players excited. Let's talk about how to get your players pumped to play your game. I was thinking about this game because I saw some more reviews on it, some more people covering it, and a lot of the time the reviewers just flat out recommend it. They're like, this is just the best. This is like Game of the Year RPG, period. Which is interesting to me because I like the first half of the game, but I feel that it falls off pretty dramatically in the second half. And that's the thing, isn't it? What's interesting here isn't that it falls apart for me, because I have very nitpicky tastes about mechanics and stuff. What's interesting to me is that such a wide variety of people, with such wide difference in priorities, thought that the first 20 hours of this game was pretty much the best shit ever. I don't know about you, but if I make a game where the first 20 hours is the best shit ever to basically everyone, and then some people think it goes down to merely being good, yeah, I'm okay with that. I can live with that. So what is it about this game's first 20 hours that make it astonishingly compelling? Just like one of the best RPGs ever. What is it? I think it's opportunities. I think it's paths and choices. This is something I think a lot of people don't understand about RPG design, CRPGs. The player doesn't make a choice. The player never gets to make a choice. The player gets to choose a choice, but the dev makes them. The dev constructs them. The dev decides what choices are available. And because of that, what matters most isn't what the player chooses, but whether the choices serve the game at all. Does the fact that an option exists make the game better just because that option exists, whether or not the player chooses it? Let me give you some examples. I'll just show you one from Yakuza right here. There's lots. This one is the easiest to talk about. Jobs. I mean, most RPGs have some kind of job setup. Normally, it's a way of telling the game the kind of experience you want to have, at least in combat. Do you want to be a pew-pew magician? Do you want to swing your sword? Do you want to be the sneaky thief? What is your priority? But they're never very exciting, are they? The choices that you don't choose stop mattering immediately. When you see the job options in this game, you get pumped. Oh my god, I can be a devil rocker? I can be a host? A break dancer? These are classes that don't exist in other games. More to the point, these classes only could exist in Ichiban Kasuga's story. That's the main character's name. Just his story. This universe has many other games in it, and these classes would not work in those games. These classes are ultra unique and ultra specific to this man's specific journey. Wow, that's so well done. You see this and you're like, Devil Rocker. Yes, I want Ichiban to dress up as an aging Kiss fan. Yes, please. Yes, that. I want that experience. I want to see how that feels to be an aging Kiss fan. I want to have the confidence to do that. Oh yeah, let's make him a musician. Look at that. Wouldn't you love to see a musician that looks like this? How about a fortune teller? Yeah, he's definitely got he's got your future in his hands. These options create a future where Ichiban could be these things, and you can immediately see that Ichiban as a character is broader and more interesting because these paths exist at all. Even if you don't choose them, the fact that they exist makes his character deeper and more interesting. A lot deeper and more interesting. This is super, super compelling. This is not my main save, by the way. I've beaten the game. This is an early save. Devil Rocker is something you can't unlock immediately. This is something that you can't choose. But the fact that you know that eventually you will be able to choose it gives it an immediacy. It's like, this is something that Kasuga could become if he has enough confidence. Will you play the game with enough confidence to get Kasuga to dress up like an aging Kiss fan? How about the cop? How about this old cop? Are you going to dress him like a devil rocker? Isn't this great? Isn't this like, oh my gosh, this is the experience of this game, right? This is an experience you would not have in any other game. This is unique and distinct, and it builds these characters and their shared reality to a level that other choices in other job choices in other games can't even approach. This is unique and distinct. It's also got some weaknesses. We won't talk about those right now because it's not the point. But this is a way of creating a shared reality by offering the player opportunities. Some of them, the player can't even choose some of these opportunities just because they're not available yet. But knowing that they will be available is enough to build this shared world and give us a whole bunch of a rush of adrenaline as we're like, yes, I want to go to the top of that hill over there. I can see that is the Devil Rocker Hill. How do I get there? I've got to go there. And once the player says that, you've got him for at least 20 hours. Let's go over the opposite approach. And that would be, we're going to switch over to Solasta. Now, Solasta is just an arbitrary example. Why is it not giving me Solasta? There we are. All D&D based and Pathfinder based games are like this. This is basically the standard for D&D and Pathfinder games. And it is as boring as could possibly be. None of these choices excite me. None of these choices build the world or make the world a richer place. Oh, does this D&D based fantasy world have elves in it? I never would have guessed. Oh, look, there's only 2 options. What about the desert elves, the dark elves, the light elves, the moon elves, the fire elves, the ice elves, the space elves, the Dwemer underground elves, the blood elves, the water elves, the underwater elves, the sky elves, the cloud elves. I can go on. These choices aren't very interesting to us, and they do not build the world in any sort of distinct way. Similarly here, I can choose any of these classes, but none of them speak to me. The instant I choose one, I immediately forget that the other ones are even options, because why would I care? There's no Devil Rocker class. Where's my Devil Rocker class? If there was a Devil Rocker class, everyone would choose it. The game would be entirely made out of people going out there with groups of 4 Devil Rockers. Because it's interesting, and these other options aren't. Did you know, back in the day before most of you were born, Elf was a class? Yeah, you choose the class Fighter, Cleric, Thief, Elf. Now, the reason for that was because at the time, elf was new. The concept of being an elf was pretty new. And what it was is that adventure stories were mostly about, burly, sweaty dudes. And the idea of getting to be the, flighty elf that lives forever and has perfect archery skills and ancient magical knowledge. That experience was the Devil Rocker. That was like, oh my gosh, that's super cool. Yeah, you guys can be Conan and Robin Hood. I'm gonna be the fucking elf. Over time, of course, it became normal. And of course, if every game from here on out has a Devil Rocker class, eventually that will also become normal and it will turn into a species, which I would actually like to see. But you get that idea, right? It's sort of like in Baldur's Gate. When you watch people play Baldur's Gate, a lot of them gravitate towards Tiefling as a species, because it's not one of the core D&D species. It has at least a little hint of being fresh and new and interesting. These options, whether or not I choose them, need to remain in my head. When I see that something is an option, I should realize that the world is more interesting than I've ever thought it to be. And that's just not what you get out of these games. When I pick Paladin in this game, I'm picking a rail-labeled Paladin that goes off into the mists, and I'm just assuming that it's going to be the exact same paladin experience that we could get in any D&D game or Pathfinder game anywhere on the planet since the dawn of time. Is that really the choice you want to let me make? The choice of assuming that you have nothing new to say, nothing new to show me? I have to assume that your game is so boring that it has no surprises and no interesting twists. Because that's what these choices are telling me. That's just not a good way to build an RPG. CRPG anyway. Tabletop RPGs are a little bit different because those are like negotiated between several players. Anyway, if we think about RPGs that did a little bit better, for example, Mass Effect or Dragon Age, those choices always give us a hint of the larger world. For example, in Mass Effect, remember this game is fairly old at this point, so it was a little uncommon at the time. When you choose a class in Mass Effect, you only choose one class, but by learning what the classes are, you realize that psychics and technicians are combat classes in the Mass Effect universe. And those are exciting. The psychic is the devil rocker of the Mass Effect universe, and you can tell because Jack is one. This is the sort of planning that you should be doing. When the player makes a choice, whether they choose the Devil Rocker or not, the fact that the Devil Rocker exists defines your universe. Similarly, which history you choose for yourself, which character history you choose in Mass Effect does not matter. It's like a couple lines of dialogue of difference. But reading through those choices defines the world. You immediately realize what's up with the human species in this universe because this backstory tells you. These backstories tell you. Which one you choose doesn't matter. The point is that you now know what's up with the humans in this universe. Of course, you can see other games that do this well, like Disco Elysium does it great. Clam Man 2, those do it great. Lots of RPGs do it great. But I think that they might be doing it great on accident. Or at least partially incidentally. Let's try and do it great on purpose. Let's make choices that build the world. Let's make choices that make the player go, oh my god, I have got to try that. Because if your player doesn't go, I have got to try this, then they're probably not going to try it. They're probably going to be bored. That's my opinion. See you around.